Hi, Mocienne Petit Jackson. Welcome to my channel. I am going through trauma, really. And I have my channel because I want to stay honest about the situation that I am in right now. And what happened is, or what is happening to me, is that I am remembering things of my childhood. And why do I remember things? Because TMZ, they have created a program about who really killed Michael Jackson. And that really do something to me emotionally because my father, Michael Jackson, is a different man than the artist Michael Jackson, where everyone is talking about. So I'm really having a hard time dealing with this. People creating all kind of stories surrounding his death. For me, his death is still very fresh, and I really have a hard time still dealing with it. My heart is just broken. I'm still devastated. I cannot believe it happened. I, I know he died. I know he passed away. I have followed the court with Dr. Devil, and the thing that's going on right now is that I'm talking a lot for the first time surrounding my life. Me saying Michael Jackson is my father. And I'm really grieving. I'm into a grieving process where I am saying goodbye to all this pain that went into my life. And I think it's good because it gives me opportunity to build up my life the way that I want. I have never been ashamed or feel ashamed about where I come from and who are my parents. I think one of the most important things that I learned when I was kidnapped 38 years ago was to accept the situation. The first thing that I did, and that really made me go through hell, is accepting who I am, accepting where I come from. And I could tell you, the moment that I found out Michael Jackson was my father, I went through hell because I had to accept something that I had no answers to. And it really crushed me, crushed my mind, devastated me in every possible way that you can imagine. It devastated me. I was absolutely heartbroken to understand what had happened to me. I was kidnapped because my father was not the police guy working in America that he educated me he was. My father was a special agent working in America, and that's why I had to stay with my aunt Kelly in Haiti for a while. My famous family was Diana Ross was my aunt. She was a very famous singer. She was the rich one. She was the one with money. So, and then finding out that my father, Michael Jackson, is one of the biggest artists in the world, that he started being a musician from young age, something that I didn't grow up knowing. It was absolutely a surprise that he was my dad, and that he was one of the biggest artists in the world that he have been performing all his life. So when I was kidnapped, I had to accept a lot of things that were being done to me. So, and accepting things was really traumatic. I really had to go to hell to really accept things the way they were. So, but I knew if I wasn't going to accept it, I wasn't going to survive it. My heart would just crush and I just felt like dying. My heart was just broken, absolutely broken. So accepting things is where you can give your mind, your brains, a solution to heal and deal with the situation. So accepting, really accepting. So hearing my father music for the first time, his voice with the music and everything, that was when I was kidnapped, you know. Knowing that my father was a very important man, that was when I was kidnapped, I was brutalized, I was physically torn apart with physical and mental abuse by my kidnapping. So what happened is that something in your brain, when you go through trauma, making you want to go and surviving things. So I have been in some kind of state all my life where I want to survive things. And lately, my body, my brains are reliving the trauma that I went through. And at the same time, my brain are also accepting the trauma that I went through. Because if I don't accept what I went through, I cannot give it a place. So I have really hard nights. I go through a lot of nightmares lately. I really go through a lot of nightmares. And the nightmares, they make me that I don't sleep well. They give me extremely headache and that my head really hurt. So sometimes I just have days that I wake up in the morning and I'm really wondering, should I call a doctor because my brain is hurting so much. And then I just try to calm down and try to find my way with the situation so that I can continue in my day. And when I was young, I went to a child psychologist in the first start, in the beginning, and he concluded that I was something really horrible happened to me because of the scars of my body, and I didn't want to talk about it. So, because I had to survive what was going on in my life, there are things that I have pushed away in my life, and now these things, they are coming back to me. I remember I am remembering things that I never wanted to be remember again. I am remembering them, and it's really hard to deal with this kind of experience again. And I'm trying to deal with it as good as I can. But I found out, because my father was murdered, it makes it more harder for me to deal with the situation. Really make it harder for me. It make harder for me because my father's not here. I cannot talk about it. I cannot totally grieve about it because there are things in the situation that I am now in that no one can give me any answer it. So I have to find my own peace in this situation. One thing that I have learned is when you go through trauma, you have to move your body. So this is why I'm also walking in a forest. Forests give a lot of accident, a lot of accident. So it's a lot of air I'm breathing in, and that will help me go to my days better. So I am surviving from the technique that was learned. I was educated to do so. So walking in the forest, oxygens, make sure you breathe in, you breathe out. That really will help me go through my nights, because my nights are really hell, are absolutely hell. So specific things that I remember is the fighting. I remember my father, Michael Jackson, fighting with a lot of people, and that was before I went to the Dominican Republic. And I really remember my father being angry. Oh my God, cry again. I remember my father being angry and really dropping a lot of of things, throwing things on the floor, and using his fit, having his voice up, really screaming at people, and I was very young in that time, and I knew it was about me. I knew it was about me, and this situation also remind me of that. Why so many child therapists said don't make fights surrounding your children, because they will remember. And I am in a point now that I remember the fights that my father had, and that I remember the desperation that he had, that he felt he didn't have any control about his life and all he's doing. And these are really emotional memories for me. It's emotional because I did not know my father was Michael Jackson and a huge star, and that I was born, and that all my life I was a world secret that no one knew. I didn't know all these kind of things. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was the burden, the shame, the scandal in the life of my father. I did not know all this. I did not know. I was just alive, a child, playing innocently. And one of the reasons that it gave me trauma, because I come to a point in my life where I'm doing this lawsuit against the Dutch government, going to court surrounding my kidnapping. I went to court because I claimed my inheritance, saying Michael Jackson is my father. And the thing is that I am no longer going to allow people to make me feel guilty about who I am and where I come from. And that reality also really give me some kind of nightmares, because I'm finally feeling that I do have some control about my life, and I'm not gonna let the world punish me for decisions that my family have made for me when I was a very young child. So a part of my brains are remembering things that for the most people are not important to be remembered, but they are very important in my life, because this kind of things made me the person that I am today. I am Mocienne because I have a history, and these small things that I remember are very big things because I remember the hurt and the pain and absolutely devastating that my father didn't have any control. I really remember my father, Michael Jackson, attacking Joe Jackson. I remember that. I remember, oh my God, I remember my father, Michael Jackson, being in a room with my grandfather, Joe Jackson, and um, and my father, Michael Jackson, really coming near Joe Jackson's face, really like this on his face, and really screaming at him, "You don't control me," or whatever. And my grandfather really pushing my father so hard that he almost falls. And I remember that my father picking something from the ground, picking something, glass, something that could break, or a vase, something, and really throwing it hard on the ground. And I remember that I was not so far away, and I saw it, and I remember my father really getting mad. And I remember that it was in my father's house. It was in my father's. It was in our family house, and that my father really screamed, say, "Get out!" to my grandfather. I remember that, and I remember him throwing my grandfather Joe out of the house, walking into the room. I was just playing. I was busy with something, and then that he just picked me up. That he just picked me up and went walking with me, and he didn't care that he disturbed me in what I was doing. I was like, I was just playing. I was just playing. I was just a young child. I was playing with something in the other room, very nearby. So my father have kicked out my grandfather Joe, and he was very aggressively blah 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 blah. And I know I was on the ground. I was playing with something, and my father just picked me up, put me in his arms, and walked with me outside. I live near the sea in Santa Barbara because this was all in America. I live near the sea in Santa Barbara. And I remember that someone was in the car, drove with me with my father to the sea. And I remember that it was all quiet, and we went walking hand in hand with my father in the sea, just he and me. And he was quiet a very long time. And I remember the shock feeling that it gave me, that my father just picked me up with the same aggressive behavior that he had through my grandfather, and totally silent. So I have really experienced that as a really, really huge trauma in my life. So, and this also really made me realize how important it is that parents don't fight near children. So, if you ask me what's the point that give you nightmares, what give me nightmare is his physical power of my father, his angriness, and how frightened it was all for me. I was so scared. I was so scared of being picked up by my own father, and then being picked up, being put in a car, driving to the sea. My father was holding my hand, not talking to me, and I felt frightened. I felt so scared, so threatened, that feeling. And so these are some of the memories that are really coming back to me. memories that may not say anything to anyone, but memories that are so crucial in my mind. Crucial because it was telling me something wasn't okay. Something was really going on in my life, and I felt like my life was in danger, was absolutely in danger. And I also remember that there was a point in my life that I felt a bit scared of my father. I was a bit scared of my father, Michael Jackson. And I didn't even know he was Michael Jackson, one of the biggest artists in the world. So this was Mocienne Petit Jackson. Thank you for following my channel. And I'm going to tell you more about it in the next video.